Welcome to Tombstone, Arizona. Today we are at Boothill Cemetery, one of the most legendary Wild West cemeteries. Boothill Cemetery was founded in 1878 and was Tombstone's first official cemetery. It got its name because so many people were buried in the ground with their boots on, thus being Boothill Cemetery upon this hill here. In 1884, the cemetery lost its official status as the official cemetery of Tombstone, Arizona, and fell into neglect. However, in the 1920s, it was restored and started to show a little bit of what we see here today. So if you've been watching the channel at all, you know we like to cover some graveyards. I've been to the war graves in Regensburg. I've been to the British war graves in Dornbach. And now I'm here in Tombstone, Arizona, checking out the old cemetery, the first official cemetery of Tombstone, Arizona, where a lot of those famous names lie. So here's a grave of George Johnson, who bought a stolen horse unknowingly and suffered the consequences. His tombstone says, "Here lies George Johnson, hanged by mistake in 1882. He was right, we was wrong, but we strung him up and now he's gone." So one thing I noticed walking through these graves is you'll see a lot of Confederate flags. There's a lot of Confederate veterans, and that's because after the war, a lot of Confederate veterans came out here and made their way to Tombstone to start over. Among them were lawmen, miners, ranchers, you name it. All came out here to Tombstone, Arizona to start a new life for themselves. And as they lay with their graves, they wanted to be remembered. And that's why you'll see the plaque that says CSA veteran with the Confederate flag, the battle flag, flying over their final resting places. Here we have the grave of Old Man Clanton, killed in August 1881. The placard right next to him with the Confederate flag shows that he was a Civil War veteran. So he survived the Civil War, came here to Tombstone, only to be shot on the streets. Frank Bowes, born August 5th, 1828, died August 26, 1880. As you pass by, remember that as you are now, once was I. As I am now, you soon will be. Remember me. Those are definitely some words to think about. So in the last video we did on Tombstone, we talked about the story of John Heath, committed that robbery in Bisbee, Arizona that killed 5 people. Well, while his comrades hanged, he escaped the noose. Well, the mob of Bisbee didn't like that very much, so they came over to Tombstone, dragged him out of the county jail, and lynched him up on a telephone pole. Now John Heath lies here in Boothill Cemetery. Official literature that they provide for you here at the cemetery, he was taken from the county jail and lynched by a Bisbee mob on February 22nd, 1884. He was called the leader of the 5 men who were legally hanged and was said to have planned the robbery. He was hanged from a telegraph pole a short distance west of the courthouse. There you have it, John Heath. So here we have the graves of Tex, Bill, and Dan, 3 of whom were comrades of John Heath's, who were all legally hanged for that robbery in Bisbee known as the Bisbee Massacre. Now, unlike John Heath, they didn't escape the noose legally. They got what they got coming, and they hung in Tombstone. While John Heath had to have local justice take care of him, these 3 men were killed by the law. So here we have the graves of those who died in the OK Corral shooting. According to the literature, it says they were murdered on the streets of Tombstone in 1881. Tragic results of the OK Corral battle, which took place between the Earp brothers with Doc Holliday and the Cowboys. 3 men were killed and 3 were wounded. Here's a headstone of John Gillespie. He was one of the officers set to arrest Billy Grounds and Swing Hunt, the suspected killers of M.R. Peel. He died instantly when Hunt shot him in the head. Lying right next to John Gillespie is M.R. Peel. Now, Peel was a young mining engineer who was shot one night in his office as he was working late. Suspicion fell on Swing Hunt and Billy Grounds. John Gillespie here went to go arrest Hunt and Grounds. However, he was shot in the head. Now they lay together and next to each other, the man who tried to give him justice and the man who was murdered. Among these graves, you come across a lot of like cowboy shooting deaths and stuff, but you also come across tragic ones, such as Ava Waters, who died at the age of 3 months. So here we have the grave of Seymour Dye, killed by Indians in 1882. The literature says that Dye was aged 35 and Harry Curry were woodcutters. This day, they were bringing in a load of hay when they were shot by Indians, who, after their victims had fallen from the wagon, dragged them for 150 feet. Here we have the grave of Billy Kingsman, a victim of love. He was shot by a woman much older than he, who was jealously in love with him. According to the literature, this information was given by his niece. Here we have the final resting place of Emmett Crook. Now, he was the last man to be buried here years after it was decommissioned as an official cemetery. The reason for this is he spent years helping to restore and maintain the old cemetery, making sure the stories of Tombstone's early days weren't forgotten. So all those placards you see with the different names and the reasons why they died can be a credit to Emmett Crook here. And as he passed away, his wishes were to be buried with those he helped restore, being a final remembrance or marker of Tombstone's early history. So this is the last grave I'm going to be showing today, that of John Swain Slaughter, born in 1845 as a former slave who came by Tombstone in 1879 and died on February 8th, 1945. So this stone here was erected by the personnel at Fort Huachuca, which is nearby Tombstone, and friends of Tombstone in memory of a worthy pioneer. And that's really what it is here, of the people lying here. They're a variation of different people: pioneers, miners, lawmen, outlaws, everyone trying to take advantage of that Wild West, that, you know, the freedom and the absurdness of it, trying to take advantage of that and make a life for themselves. And it doesn't matter what kind of life they lived, they all ended up here in Boothill Cemetery. Just like you should if you're ever in Tombstone. Hopefully not to lie here, but just to explore. Now, I could look at these graves all day and try to learn the stories of each individual person here, because I think that's fascinating. However, in an effort to save time, and because I don't have that much time myself, that was a short blick into Boothill Cemetery, the first official cemetery of Tombstone, Arizona. If you're ever in the area, which you definitely should be, especially if you're into Wild West history, check out the town of Tombstone and definitely do not miss Boothill Cemetery. That was another episode from Walking for History. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you felt like you learned something, please leave a subscribe, a like on the video, and comment what you thought was most interesting. Which grave did you like the best? Until the next time, when we discover some other topics, I'll see you guys then, and appreciate you staying around to watch the video.